Perfect. So how are you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Great, great. So we are here today to talk about your film. So tell me a little bit about your film, but before you tell me about your film, tell me about you and how you got started as an actor and as an independent producer.
Well, I started acting actually at the age of 7. I did a semi-professional production of Oliver as a kid, and I actually remember my mom came up to me and said, hey Jason, they're having auditions for Oliver. Do you want to be a part of it? And I said, okay. And I had no clue what acting was at that time, and I fell in love with it. And so as I grew up doing theater, I ended up going to AMDA in New York, the American Musical Dramatic Academy, and at the end of AMDA, I studied musical theater there. At the end of the program, I found myself getting hired to do films more often than theater, and I thought, all right, let's do films. I enjoy them too, and as I kept doing film after film, I found myself really falling in love with this industry, and I wanted to also have a chance to create some films of my own.
Okay. And I haven't had a chance to review your resume, so some of the questions may seem a little bit redundant in terms of tell me about your, let's see, after you did that first commercial, you said, what was the first project you worked on in a professional capacity?
After finishing school or?
After school, yes.
After school. I would say that the first big professional gig after school was Tommy in Alaska. I was in a stage production of the Who's Tommy up in Juneau, Alaska, and that was a blast. And then I did an off-Broadway production with my family called Looking for Billy Haynes, and that was also a ton of fun. And I've just been getting, little shorts here or there, or a small role in a feature, and I fell in love with filming in general, and which is where Perfect Wedding kind of was born, because my parents and I did a film called Jolly back in, I want to say around 2008-ish. I'm not sure if my dates are right, but I know it was around that time. And it was a really eye-opening experience. But the thing we learned the most was that we can do this. We can make films. And so, cut to a few years later, I had this idea of, I want to see an LGBT film where they're just existing and nobody has to come out, nobody's dying of anything, nobody's struggling with issues of their sexuality, and it's just a world where everyone just exists. And so I called my parents and I was like, we got to make this movie. And they said yes, thankfully. And so basically we sat down and wrote it out. And I would say that this has been the most ambitious project that I've worked on and the most professional of all of them.
Okay. And you mentioned that this was a family affair. Do you come from a family of producers or filmmakers?
Well, now I do. But originally, both my parents are authors. So my mom is a New York Times best-selling author, Suzanne Brockman, and my dad is Edgar Award finalist, Ed Gaffney. Yeah, and my mom actually is one of the groundbreakers for including LGBT characters in her books who aren't just the friend. They have actual relevance to the story, and they aren't just stereotypes. And her biggest character, who's my favorite, is Jules Cassidy, and he is an FBI agent, and he kicks ass. He's awesome. And he ends up falling in love with the man of his dreams. And it's been really cool seeing those characters flourish. And she actually gave her book All Through the Night is their romance story, and it was a pretty groundbreaking book when it came out.
That's awesome. That is awesome to come from a family of entertainers and have a family that are supportive in that way.
Yeah. I've been really lucky. I mean, I absolutely know how lucky I am from all the news stories out there, and I can't wait. Every day I see more and more people are getting lucky like I did with their families, and I can't wait till a day where the stigma of being LGBTQ, whatever, is gone. It's just like you're human and you're not judged based on who you love. You're judged on who you are as a person as opposed to, who you're born as and how you act as a human being. So I'm looking forward to that day.
That is outstanding. Let's talk about a little bit about Perfect Wedding. I'm going to ask once again, where did the inspiration for that film come? Just in case I missed it when you were speaking earlier.
Yeah.
So where was that inspiration?
I was actually at a Christmas party for where it was a charity event for gay youth. And I just got inspired there. I remember that they had Santas serving drinks to the people there, and the Santas were shirtless. And I remembered thinking like, oh, that's so cliche, an LGBT party with shirtless, bartenders. And then it just dawned upon me that, because I had been watching, I love LGBT films. I love all of them. I think there's a place for each and every one of them. But I noticed that every single one of them tended to have some sort of coming out story or some sort of struggle for acceptance or, some sort of extreme drama dealing with their sexuality. Or if it was a comedy, most of the jokes stemmed from their sexuality. So basically, I in that moment I thought, I got it. I want to see a film where there are no cliches. I want to see a world where people are people and the stereotypes don't exist. We don't make any jokes about sexuality, and it's just they are, and they're in a loving world. And I remember calling up my dad right at that moment and said, we're going to make a film. And he was like, it's 11 o'clock. I'm going to bed. So, but I talked to them more, and they were absolutely on board. And that's kind of where the initial, core of the film came from. And I remembered thinking that originally it was just going to be, all I had was the concept. A guy goes home to his family, and he brings home a boyfriend because they've been hounding him to be with someone, but he's not with that person, and then they end up falling in love. And, of course, the story's changed dramatically since that basic plot line, which I'm glad for. It's gotten much better. But that was the general idea, was that they all knew he was gay, and they were all fine with it. They just wanted him to find his true love and be happy.
So what part of the Perfect Wedding is your own story?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, there's pieces of me and pieces of my family all over this film. Because I am hearing impaired, and the character I play is also hearing impaired. I love extremely difficult board games, which at one point my character Gavin jokes about hating really difficult board games. So my parents snuck that one in on me. And so there's little snippets in there that really fit like kind of all of our lives. And I would say that the biggest piece of me and my family that's in this film is the unconditional love that each of the characters have for each other. You know, and the support, I would say it's the unconditional love and the support is the strongest part of what stems from me and my family.
Since part of the story is your story, were you tempted then to include your partner in this film?
No. Back at the time, I was dating someone else, and he was not an actor. He was a musical theater writer, and now I'm with I love him to death, my boyfriend Matt, and he is absolutely not in the acting industry. He is involved in education, and I absolutely adore that. It makes it a lot easier at the end of the day to come home and have us both have very different fields that we can share with each other.
I see. Now, in terms of the filmmaking experience, tell us about the most difficult thing that happened during the filming or the filming process, and what did you do to overcome that obstacle?
I would say the most difficult thing that happened during the process for me was I was wearing a lot of different hats. I had helped write it, I was helping produce it, and I was acting in it. And I'm very hands-on, kind of type A, control freakish. And I needed to, and this is something I actually discussed with my parents before filming, I knew that if I was trying to do a scene with any of the scenes that involved extreme emotion or anything, or even just the ones that were simple for my character, I couldn't be wearing the producer hat at the same time while I was on set. After filming for the day was done, anyone could come up to me with a producer question, but during the filming, we needed to make sure that I wasn't wearing multiple hats because I had done that before when I was younger, and I wasn't able to focus on what I needed to focus on when I was on set. So I would say that was the hardest thing because at the same time, I really wanted to wear all the hats, but I couldn't fit 3 hats on my head at that moment. But it was also a really great experience in learning that you can let go of things for a little while and it will be fine.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit about this film in terms of when and where has it played on the festival circuit?
Okay. It has played, we've been actually really lucky. It has played in the Sarasota Film Festival. It was in the Long Island Film Festival recently. Pulling up the. There we go. It was at the Long Island Gay and Lesbian Film Festival this past November. It was at the Indiana LGBT Film Festival, which is actually in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, and that was in October of last year. We were at the North Carolina Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in August of last year, and we were at the Garden State Film Festival in April of last year, where we actually won Best Feature Comedy Award, which was a real honor and treat for us. And we were also at the Spokane International Film Festival of February last year, and in 2012, April 2012, we were in the Sarasota Film Festival, which was also a great honor because we filmed the movie in the Sarasota area.
Okay. And let's talk about the production company. Let's see, what is it here? Small or Large Productions?
Yeah, that's actually my family's production company.
Okay.
Back when we were starting to do work, doing the getting our feet wet in film production with the movie Jolly, and doing the off-Broadway show Looking for Billy Haynes, we needed to have a production company, and so we came up with Small or Large Productions, and it actually stems from an experience my parents had at a McDonald's where they were trying to order French fries on a road trip for one of their friends, and they could not. The person kept asking small or large, and they kept saying large, and it went on for about 5 minutes before the person in the intercom finally was able to understand my dad saying large. So it's got a little bit of a wink to it.
So then will Small or Large Productions be a family outlet that will feature your work, or will it feature the works of other actors as well?
At this point, it's going to be the family's production company. I mean, I would love for in the future for us to have the ability to make tons of different productions across the board. I'm currently talking to my dad about another film that we're really interested in making, and we're figuring out all the details with that. And I'm actually going to be making a web series this year with Small or Large, so I'm looking forward to that as well. But as of right now, it's going to remain a family business where our family projects are made. But the future, you never know.
I see. And earlier you mentioned that you are a big fan of LGBT film. And can you name some of the films or some of the professionals you like in terms of actors and directors?
I would say that one of my favorite filmmakers is Rob Williams. He did a ton of films that I've really enjoyed. My favorite, though, of his is Make the Yuletide Gay. I love that film. It's one of those films where it just felt like it was one of the stronger ones out there. Of course, my all-time favorite, and will always remain my favorite because it was the first LGBT film that I ever saw. And as a kid, when you're coming out, and even if you have the support of your family and all your professional friends from the theater and even your school and everything on your side, you look at mainstream Hollywood, and there weren't very many films at that time, but the movie Trick was out, and that is absolutely my favorite because it was the first time where the characters were like openly gay men, and they were living their lives, and it focused on them as opposed to a gay character in a submissive role. I would say also another favorite of mine is Latter Days. The acting in that is spectacular, and the story is heart-wrenching. And I'm really glad spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, but I'm really glad that they end up together at the end.
So then could audiences expect to see any of those actors in future projects with big or small productions?
Smaller, yeah.
Small or big productions?
Small or large.
Large.
Yeah. And I would say I would love to work with them. I mean, I would love to work with any of them. One of the joys of making a film, for me, this is another hard part for the process, but also a wonderful part. When you're searching for the actors for the film, the amount of talent we saw was just endless. And it was just a matter of who fit this film. And so there's depending on what the next project is who we'll need for the next film. And I would love to work with many of the actors in those films. I would love to work with the people who are under production. I would love to work with Rob Williams, of course, at some point, and collaborate with him. I mean, that would be a dream job at some point. And but what's great is that there are so many great, talented artists out there waiting to be discovered, or having worked for a long time and just, never being, a megastar. But finding them and seeing them is awesome.
So then, what can audiences or your fans, let's say this, what can your fans expect to see from you in the next 10 years?
Well, the web series I'm doing is it's kind of like the Carol Burnett show meets SNL. It's a very sketch comedy style. It's a very different thing than The Perfect Wedding. Each episode is a different sketch. But the film that I'm talking about with my dad right now actually is a lesbian feature film. The main character is a lesbian. And I'm really looking forward to that one because it's a serious thriller drama. And so I would say people could expect anything, because at this point we are unlimited in our imagination and our willingness to try new projects.
Okay. And right now I see that The Perfect Wedding is available on Wolf Video.
Yep.
And go ahead.
Oh, it's available there. It's also available on iTunes and Amazon.com, and also Xbox Live.
And is there anything else you would like to share with us, with our readers?
Again, I really believe that the world that we created for The Perfect Wedding, where love is love, and people just see the love, as opposed to any other prejudices, will happen. And I really can't wait for that to happen.